Hello and welcome back to another episode of Mystery Red Reads. I'm your host, Mystery Red, and this is my disclaimer. This beta read in Concrete is at the author's request. This video is for learning purposes. If you're new here, welcome. Please like and subscribe or comment on a video. I do beta reads and Concretes in video format so you can experience hearing your story read out loud and reader reaction. This combination provides a beta read in a truly unique format. I do both public and private videos. If you think you might be interested in a read but don't want it to be public, fear not. I do offer private reads. First chapters are free. I do have a playlist for all of my public read repeat authors so you can go back and follow a story from the beginning. And with that, today we are looking at a piece of original fiction. We are back with Dawn Trike. We are on No Name Shattered, Chapter 2. This is, I believe, read 6. Yes, we are in Chapter 2, read 6. And we are going to dive right in. Let me make sure I am in suggesting, as I take off the highlight from the spot where I left off, Chapter 2 to Part 2, and we are in suggesting, so we're good to go. Alana stepped through the portal and onto the gray surface of the moon. She looked at the mystical opening. The violet outline looked stable. Okay, so we got two looked. We've got two looks very close together. I'm going to highlight those. Let me set my timer really quick. Okay, she looked at the mystical opening. All was well at that point. The violet outline looked stable, seeing the throne room clearly. Okay, so we have looked, and seeing. I'm going to highlight the two looks, and I'm going to make a teensy suggestion. Super quick and easy. Little swap out there. Appeared might be a way to break that up and still get across what you're trying to say. She looked at the mystical opening. The violet outline appeared stable, seeing the throne room clearly. Okay, so seeing through... She's looking through, right? She's looking, okay, no, like a window. I get it. I got it. We're good. I cringed a little bit at clearly. It feels like an afterthought. It feels like something you don't need. I'm just going to suggest you remove it. There we go. And we're going to keep going. Seems the boozing has not completely dulled her skills. Cannot say the same for her attitude, Alana said. Alana walked past the portal, confirming the planet beneath, to see the edges of the continent that housed her kingdom. Her eyes scouted the planet. Looks as though the reports were correct about Hades having wildfire problems. She looked to a continent across the ocean from Hedron. Sur Island still has its barrier up. Very good, she noted. Looking, we have more looking. We have lots of looked in here. I'm going to highlight all the looks, so that you can go through and flip-flop them around with some other words to kind of break it up. All right. They're just a little bit too close together. Sur Island still has its barrier up. Very good, she noted, looking at a small island near Hedron's coast, then looked directly, and it's suggesting you swap that with looking, but I'm going to point out that that's the fourth looked within like 3 sentences. Then looked directly between the two continents to what looked like a speck of land from all the way on the moon. All right. No changes at Eagle's Nest, thank goodness, and she squinted back at Hedron. Shame I could not come here sooner. Cannot see a thing in the Yearlands. She looked toward the edges of the planet. You could do glanced, browsed, perused, appeared. There's tons of words to kind of mix to break that up a little bit. She looked toward the edges of the planet, seeing only clouds, sighing at the sight. No surprise, nothing changed there. She turned away from the portal. A good update, but I must get to the task at hand. She walked along the moon's surface. I wonder if that should be a comma there. Barely 20 feet from the glowing portal, she looked back, remembering the same sight when she was first put on this solitary rock. Are we doing yellow? Yes. I got distracted. Okay. Part of her wished her sister would be there again, glaring at her with a look of disappointment and anger. To think I would want you here again like that, but at least you would still be around. She turned her back to the shattered space once more, blinking her misty eyes away. Wait. What do you thinking? Great. Let's see if I can use my words. How can I help you with yours if I can't use mine? Let's try this. She turned her back to the shattered space, blinking misty eyes. Or she turned her back to the shattered space once more, blinking misty eyes. You and I are much better off without her. Reese's childlike voice spoke proudly inside her head. Alana's face flared with anger as her halo glowed. All right, I get it. The voice seemed apologetic, the show of force changing his attitude. You better. I have no qualms tearing you out of my mind and tossing you into the black abyss of space. Let us see how long you survive without me, Alana warned. The only thing I want from you is information. I'll stay quiet. For now, Reese silenced. Alana's halo dimmed in response. She returned to survey the moon. With every step, she searched the ground, looking for anything that was out of place. You know where? Alana turned red with anger. What did I say, Reese? Alana interrupted. I know, but why are you looking here? I cannot overlook anything. There could be clues. It is best I test the waters before jumping into the deep end. I dislike what I'm feeling so far. You feel it too? Reese asked. I thought something was off the moment those objects, or I guess people, came down. Besides the moon cracking open? Alana continued. Yes, but no. It was like a wave from the moon. Something changed. What did? Alana questioned. It's as if something on that planet altered, added. Reese sounded unsure. It could be that man and the sudden addition of life, perhaps. That's part of it. I can't seem to place it. It's familiar and yet not, but also parts of it are something I'd never experienced before. Whatever or whoever did this is powerful. A tinge of fear lingered in her voice. Reese was correct. This seemed familiar. I agree. So it appears you really did not know. I do like to pester you, but this is beyond me or my kind. That is scary, Alana agreed. Okay, to figure this out, we need to get back to it. For once, I agree. You got agreeing a little bit, like 2 times kind of close together, so I'm just going to highlight it for you to kind of see that. It's just a little bit too close together for me. She stopped for just a moment. Let's take out the just. She stopped for a moment, finding a series of footprints. Looks feminine. Large feet for a woman, she deduced, following the mysterious tracks. Not much dust kicked up. Clearly not in much of a hurry. Alana, Reese tried grabbing her attention. Just wait. I think I'm onto something here. Alana cut them off. It is possible these footsteps could be from the one who caused this. If I could say one quick thing, Reese tried. Alana, irritated, stopped searching to listen. Okay, what is it? Those are your footprints, Reese spoke bluntly. I almost think you could say Reese deadpanned. And that would be, first you're cutting one word, which I know it seems silly, but every one word adds up when you're trying to trim words. And it also omits the adverb, and so it's using one word that is stronger and implies the same. That's gonna be my suggestion here, and I'm going to go with it. Alana looked down at her shoes, seeing they fit the prints perfectly. When realizing this, she turned a shade of red, embarrassed by the moment. Okay, so you're telling me she was embarrassed after you showed me she was embarrassed. I would just let it go with she turned a shade of red. A childish laughter rang out in her mind. Alana could not help but laugh along. Giggle, chuckle, you have options to kind of mix it up so that you don't have the same word too close together. All right, yes, it is quite humorous. It should come as no surprise the only footsteps here are mine, but you understand why I was fooled, yes? I do, but we can't wait forever to check it out. Not that I don't mind taking as long as possible. Alana nodded, though she was the most curious about the missing chunk of the moon. Hours passed as Alana took a more lax approach by inspecting broad areas rather than the fine-tuned inspection she was going with before. I would just try to find a different word that means the same thing and mix that up just a little bit. On the dark side, she used the light of her halo. It had been years since she felt the intense cold of the moon's shadow, but to her it felt like a light chill after the 7 centuries she had spent there. The lingering feeling of the tear plagued her mind. Of the tear? The lingering feeling of the tear. The tear. I've read it wrong. The lingering feeling of the tear plagued her mind. The magic emanating from it was intense, even at the opposite end of the moon. No matter how much she wanted to, she could not escape the need to search where all the evidence was pointing. The closer she got, the more she could feel a trembling in her mind. The edge of the calamity came into view. Alana had not realized her steps had become slow, as though subconsciously her body itself was afraid of what she approached. A wave of fear and power washed over her with every footfall. The moment she could see over the side, a surging feeling of magic came from deep within the void. Her body quaked as it crashed down on her like a tsunami. Reese wept inside of her mind. How can this be possible? Alana asked, flabbergasted, trying to understand the magical sensations. She realized she had been standing here, looking into the dark depths, not breathing or moving for some time. Taking a breath, she could only say, "This magic. How is this?" Okay. So this feels telling to me because we're with her, we're in her point of view. Alana asked, flabbergasted, trying to understand the magical sensations. She realized she'd been standing there, looking into the dark depths. Depths tend to be dark. I feel like that's redundant. Not breathing or moving for some time. Period. Taking a deep breath. I would probably just omit all of this and go with this. Let me try it. How can this be possible? Alana asked, flabbergasted, trying to understand the magical sensations. She realized she had been standing here. I keep wanting this to be there. I don't know. Standing there, looking into the depths, not breathing or moving for some time. This magic. How is this? So see how by taking out the telling line, it pulls it in closer and it feels more immersive. Alana let out a series of breaths, hoping to control herself. We've got lots of breathing, and let's go with a reddish color. Let's see. I would just mix this up. Was there more breath up here? Maybe. No? Okay. Alana let out a series of breaths, hoping to control herself. The smell of ash filled her nose. Mentally, she prepared herself to move, feeling her leg lift to drop into the pitch black recesses below, yet she hadn't moved an inch. Her left hand trembled. She grabbed it with the other, forcing it to stop. Come on, move. Move, she urged. But she urged herself, but nothing happened. Move! She had to find out what this was. Move, damn it! Her halo glowed. A dark cloud appeared behind her, no larger than her head, pushed up against her, sending her directly into the pit, sending her tumbling into the pit, falling into the pit, howling into the pit. Her halo glowed, a dark cloud appearing behind her, no larger than her head, pushing up against her. Something is wrong about your off. Okay, let's try it again. Something is not. Her halo glowed. A dark cloud appeared behind her, no larger than her head, pushed up against her, sending her into the pit. Her halo glowed, a dark cloud appearing behind her, no larger than her head. It pushed up against her, sending her into the pit. Yeah, that's what I would go with. We're going to say musings in video as we toyed with that little line that something was just not working. It took only seconds before the white of her attire, wings, and the light of her halo became swallowed by the shadows. Okay, so we have of the pit. Just how about saying swallowed by its shadows? Because she's stumbling into the pit. Its shadows. The only thing heard was a thump echoing out of the darkness. All right, and then we're on to chapter 2, part 3. And we are 15 minutes, and we're going to keep going for another 15 minutes. I'm trying to decide. We're still in chapter 2, so what I'm trying to decide right now is, do I need to stop and start a new video? But at the same time, we're still in chapter 2. We're just now on part 3. I think we're just going to keep going. Covered in swamp matter and stolen clothes, the injured man walked slowly, hunched over in pain, propping himself up against Owick's clock tower. Okay. Covered in swamp matter and stolen clothes, the injured man walked slowly. Okay, you've got a lot happening packed into one sentence. I would pick one or two details that you want to include to pare down the words here. Covered in swamp matter and stolen clothes, the injured man walks slowly. If he's propping himself up against Ulwick's clock tower, I guess he's walking to the point and he stops at the tower and props himself up against it. Covered in swamp matter and stolen clothes, the injured man walks slowly. Period. Hunched over in pain, he propped himself up against Ulwick's clock tower. There we go. So if you break this here, oh, that's not what I'm trying to do. And we went with a capital here, hunched over in pain, and made this an ED, past tense. Let's try it again. Covered in swamp matter and stolen clothes, the injured man walked slowly. He hunched over in pain. He propped himself up against Owick's clock tower. Placing his hand on the black structure, he barely felt the searing heat emanating from its walls in the afternoon sun. His other hand pressed against his stomach, the pain inside excruciating. He believed himself lucky that he had not passed out yet, but felt like he might at any moment. What little he did notice were the different people that were out and about at the center of town, a large circular space surrounding the clock tower and its technological beauty. He noticed many people, but strangely, some had halos above their heads, while others had wings. I must be hallucinating. Are they dead? He thought he had gone mad, but noticed others with halos were interacting with them. Nah, can't be. Okay, so this part I would just omit. I'm curious about the highlight. What does it say? You don't have any notes on the highlight, so I'm not really sure what to look for there. He noticed many people, but strangely, some had halos above their heads, while others had wings. I must be hallucinating. Are they dead? He thought he had gone mad, but noticed others without halos interacting with them. Nah, can't be. All right. Looking at these unfamiliar sights seemed to take his mind off of the ache in his gut until his stomach surged like it was being torn from the inside. He paused, taking deep breaths. He looked to find an alley between two small shops. He rushed over, taking small steps the entire way. Steps, okay. I think it's fine. I don't know why I think I had too many S sounds. It's not, that's a reading out loud thing. It's just, it's fine. Okay. It was me. I was wondering why was I tripping up? What was happening in my head? I might be distracted because I am wondering, and this is not a bad thing. It's just something that I noticed at this little spot that I thought in the low back of my mind, I wasn't going to say anything, but since I tripped up and I have to observe why I tripped up and get to the bottom of it, it is because 3 sentences consecutively started with he. And I started to kind of wonder if some rewording could, the same thing could be said and maybe some rewording take place to get the same point across, because it starts to feel telling. Let's see. Looking at these unfamiliar sights seemed to take his mind off the ache in his gut. Okay, this is distancing. And we're going to clean up 3 words and make them 1 word. Looking at these unfamiliar sights took his mind off the ache in his gut until his stomach surged like it was being torn from the inside. He paused, taking deep breaths. He looked to find an alley between 2 small shops. He rushed over, taking small steps the entire way, feeling another rush of liquid shoot up into his throat. He held back. Oh, we have another one starting with he. Okay, so this feels telling. I'm not against what it says by any means, like what's happening. You might think about, some internal thoughts. I'm gathering we're in this male character's point of view from the beginning of the chapter 2 part 3. But you might, to mix this up, you could break it up a little bit within some internal thoughts of what's his mindset. We have what's happening to him, but I'm wondering what is he thinking about. I can tell that the sights to him are unfamiliar, and he doesn't know even where he's at or what he's looking at based on what's happening here. He looked to find an alley between two small shops. He rushed over. Okay, you could say rushing over, but if he's rushing, are his steps... okay, rushing over, he took small steps the entire way, and as another rush of liquid shot up into his throat. Holding back the fluid long enough to get into the alley, he tripped as he kicked the side of the building. He tripped kicking the side of the building. So see, I just reworked it to make it active, and then it felt less telling and more immersive. I've got the highlight on the words to point them out to you, but I'm just going to put musings and video to kind of get how I kind of toyed with it just a little bit to help you break up some of the he's and make it active. Landing on one of his elbows the moment he hit dirt, a stream of blood spewed from his mouth, followed by yet another retch. Sweat dripped from his nose as his body shook. Okay, what are his internal thoughts throughout this process? I know he's in pain. I know what's happening to him, but what is he thinking? Is he trying to tell himself not to cry out, to be quiet? Does he want attention? Does he want help? Is he afraid of approaching these people? It does not have to be a long diatribe. These are just some possibilities that you could kind of tuck in here somewhere to give us where is his mindset. I know what's happening to him, but what is he? And I know what he's seeing. I got the scene, but what are his thoughts about it? All right. Are you hurt? The voice of a small child came from behind. He turned his head, finding a small boy with blonde hair and small gray wings behind him. So we have small and small. Let's color them pink to show them to you. Their eyes met. The boy screamed in horror, seeing the deep purple eyes and blood-covered mouth. Monster! He sprinted away. Okay, so this for a second was in the boy's point of view. I'm contemplating how that could be. If we had the internal thought of the main character, are you hurt? The voice of a small child came from behind. He turned his head, finding a small boy with blonde hair and gray wings behind him. Their eyes met. As their eyes met, the boy screamed, recoiling at sight of deep purple eyes and blood-covered mouth. I'm contemplating how to make it in his point of view. I like the details. Monster. He fled. I'm going to keep going because I need to not... It needs to be in the author's words anyway, but you get the gist, and so you have my musings to kind of go where I was trying to go or where I would suggest going with it. All right, we're going to keep going. The man hurried to his feet. Scrambled? It doesn't matter. Hurried, scrambled, doesn't matter. The man hurried to his feet. His arms and legs shook as he picked himself up. He felt yet another expulsion climb into his throat, vomiting once more, coating the stolen gray shirt. His entire body felt as though gravity had it out for him. Every limb felt boulder heavy. So when we use the word felt, it is an indicator to me that I might be telling. Now, of course, all writing is telling, but we want it to be immersive telling. You've got a great visual, you've got great detail of what's happening. I don't have internal thoughts. The man scrambled to his feet, his arms and legs shaking as he picked himself up. Okay, so what I'm doing when I kind of reword this, I'm not really changing what it says. I'm kind of making your verbs active, and therefore it feels closer. I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. So, yet another expulsion climbed into his throat, and he vomited once more, coating the stolen gray shirt. His entire body ached as though gravity had it out for him. Every limb. See how I changed ache into a feeling. What is the feeling instead of saying felt? What is the sensation? His entire body ached as though gravity had it out for him. Every limb was boulder heavy. He forced himself to move, sprinting down the alley and through town. Onlookers barely noticed him as he kept to alleys and shadows between buildings. There we go. Okay. So basically all I'm suggesting here is make your verbs active and some slight adjustments there. I'll just put using some video to mark the spot for you. Let's see. Very, very slight little adjustments. All he knew was to run. If that kid tells the guards, I'm dead, he thought, rushing through town, arms swaying beside him. He darted into and out of yet another alley, unable to stop as a couple stepped into the exit and slammed into a woman in a yellow sundress. A bundle of clothing and a blanket fell to the dirt as he tumbled over the couple. Sorry, he stuttered, bloody spittle coming from his mouth as he scrambled to his feet, kicking up dirt and taking off towards the edge of town. Towards, okay. So this is kind of a long sentence. I'm starting to get the sensation of a long sentence. We're going to read it through the way it is, and then we'll contemplate what we think about it. Sorry, he stuttered, bloody spittle coming from his mouth as he scrambled to his feet, kicking up dirt and taking off towards the edge of town, towards a fence near twice as tall as him. With all the strength he could muster, he jumped, feeling like he'd clear it without issue. He found out how wrong he was the moment his foot caught the top rung and he fell hard onto the ground. Okay. Sorry, he stuttered, bloody spittle coming from his mouth as he scrambled to his feet. Period. I feel like you've got a lot happening in a very short space, and so this sentence feels crowded, basically, because there's so much happening in it. The solution is to break it into at least 2 sentences. He stuttered, bloody spittle coming from his mouth as he scrambled to his feet. He kicked up dirt, as he took off toward the edge of town. So we have, sorry, he stuttered. I hate to suggest starting another sentence with he, although I don't see a whole bunch of them close together here. He kicked up dirt as he took off toward the edge of town. Approaching a fence near, coming to a fence near twice as tall as him. I would omit this and just go with twice as tall as him. I keep wanting to say he. I don't know if that's a personal preference. He kicked up dirt as he took off towards the edge of town, approaching a fence twice as tall as he. That's my suggestion to that line. I'm just going to put using some video. We'll keep going. With all the strength he could muster, he jumped, feeling, okay. How about instead of saying feeling, you say certain? He'd clear it without issue. Okay. I would kind of look for the word feel and felt and instead try to replace that with a sensation. Yeah. Okay. So my suggestion on this is certain. There we go. He found out how wrong he was the moment his foot caught the top rung and he fell hard onto the ground. Slowly, he picked his head up. His numbing limbs barely lit. We got 2 adverbs in the very close proximity there. Barely listening as they moved far slower, as though he commanded them to move by sight alone. Every second, his arms and legs had less feeling, unable to feel. Okay, I'm going to highlight these for you too, to draw your attention to them. We'll keep going. The dirt scraping his knees and palms. Dirt. Then we have echo on dirt. Let's do purple. Stuck to the bloodied, stolen shirt, falling off in small, moist clumps as he shambled under apple trees. Rays of sunlight speckled his numbing body. With each step, do we have numbing? Maybe we should go for some other sensations that kind of imply the same thing. We have some repetition on numbing as well. Let's see. With each step, he felt his weight shift as he stepped on fresh and rotting apples alike, every movement concentrating on not falling, knowing he may not pick himself back up. He swallowed lingering blood in his otherwise dry throat. This should be far enough. I can't keep running forever. I need to rest. I would go put the period there and make these little statements of him kind of coaching himself. His breathing had become ragged. How about his breathing became ragged? To make it, goodness, that was whatever that was about. Sometimes I don't understand why I can't just make little tiny. There we go. His breathing became ragged. The pains he felt in his stomach. How about instead of saying he felt the pains in his stomach, just take it right out. His breathing became ragged as the pains in his stomach came back, sending the message that another bloody wretch was imminent. Wincing, he raised his arm to his head, looking to wipe off the dirt sticking to his skin. He found no sweat, giving him yet another clue. Things were not going well. Without water, he would be dead long before anyone found him. He searched the woods with half-closed eyes. Any sign of a stream or pond would bring relief. He saw shining red apples hanging from the trees. Shuffling slowly towards the nearest fruit. Shuffling kind of implies slow, so I don't think you need it to say slowly. I'm going to finish this paragraph before we stop for today. He searched the woods with half-closed eyes. Any sign of stream or pond would bring relief. He saw shining red apples hanging from the trees. Shuffling towards the nearest fruit, he concentrated on his heavy, shaking arms reaching for a lone apple at the end of a branch. Both felt like they were attached to a ball and chain. The very moment he saw his hands cover it, his fingers wouldn't bend anymore. Then the gnarled appendages they looked like. Pulling, his hands slipped from his meal. Come on, stupid, he berated himself before trying again. Every second his arms were up was torture. Pulling, I kind of misread this. I had to stop and contemplate what it meant, and I was trying to reread it and figure out what it needed in order for me to get the intended context. I think I needed a comma there, even though I don't think grammatically it requires it. When I was reading, I needed it in order for my reader brain to register and read it correctly and get the intended meaning from it. So he's pulling on the fruit and his hand just slips away. Got it. Also, somewhere back here, I read something as though it was its own sentence, even though it was a comma. Shuffling towards the nearest fruit, he concentrated on his heavy shaking arms, reaching for a lone apple at the end of a branch. It might have been up here. Any sign of a stream or pond would bring relief. I kind of read that as its own sentence, and then read this as its own sentence. And that was that. All right. And that's where we're at. So I'm going to highlight my spot right here. It's a nice little pink spot so I know where to pick up. And we are going to stop for today. I've got a clear visual of what's happening. I'm wondering who this character is. I'm wondering, what his story is, what's happened. So that's where I'm at with him. I've got a clear visual of where, what is what his actions are as he's definitely injured. He's really bad off. He's throwing up blood. So I'm wondering how his fingers are mangled. Okay. So I'm wondering what has happened to this guy. How did he get here? Is he another person that fell from the sky? And so these people are falling through. How many of them fell through? I'm like, is there more of them? And where is this guy going to end up? There's so much to wonder. So that's where we're at, and we're going to wrap up for today, and I'll see you guys next time on Mystery Read Reads.